Hey everyone, this is Lalo Mijares, and welcome to another episode of the Beechjet series. I have received a lot of comments. One of those is that somebody wants to know procedure to set up the vertical navigation on the FMS on the Beechjet. So today I will cover when to use vertical navigation on a climb, and also how to use vertical navigation on a descent into an airport. Come and join me. I'll show you first how to do a vertical navigation while climbing. Alright, so here we have the legs page in the FMS. We have all the waypoints we are gonna fly. For using vertical navigation function on climb, you won't be able to use the autopilot for that. Perhaps you can use to get a specific rate of climb in order to comply a flight instruction from the ATC. For example, if I want to cross Fort Stockton, we are now 200 miles off that. So if I want to cross Fort Stockton, let's say 170 miles for that fix, I'm going to add a user waypoint, which is that one. It will appear here. I'm going to execute that. And let's say we want to cross that at flight level 390, which is going to be our final altitude. So flight level 390. I'm going to put that altitude here on the corresponding column, and I will execute that. So that will give me a specific constriction to cross that fix at flight level 390. I'm going to select the VNAV on the autopilot, and that way I'm going to get this dot. You see that dot? That dot will tell me you need to keep at least 1,000 feet a minute in order to comply with this specific constraint you just introduced in the FMS. Perhaps I already told you, the autopilot won't comply with any climbing actions. You need to either use flight level change or vertical speed. If you take the vertical nav off from the autopilot, automatically will erase that dot from the vertical speed indicator. Very good. So we learned how to use the vertical navigation on the climb. Now follow me and let's see how to program the FMS for a descent. And that descent will cover from the top of descent until the approach procedure that we're gonna load into the FMS. You see that green spot with the DES letters there? That would be your estimated point of descent, and that is calculated using the field elevation. That means that there's nothing, no constraint that will tell you the FMS how to do a vertical navigation into the airports. After we set up all the vertical navigation on the FMS, that DES, that descent, will change to top of descent, which will show up the letters TOD, top of descent. Monterey del Norte is landing runway 20. So we're going to use the ILS runway 20, transition at Urtus. We're going to execute that. We're going to go and get rid of any discontinuous. We will put no tail on the scratch pad, and we'll join that here. So that will get us on a flight plan without discontinue. And look here up there. Now it says TOD, top of descent. And that is because that approach has some altitude constraints that will tell the aircraft how to do that vertical navigation into the destination airport. And that's why that descent changed into top of descent. When you do some changes, it's very likely that the top of descent will stay there or disappear for a while. And that is because the FMS is doing calculations to get that new top of descent point. If you see no tail, we're going to cross that at 90,000. And it's the approach procedure says that we need to cross that at or above 90,000. Then cross that fix at or above 7,000. And then we have another fix that is Ortus, cross at or above 6,000. I will get rid of the other altitudes because I don't care crossing at or above that. I will do care to cross this fix at 6,000. So I'm gonna grab that and execute it. So I'm gonna get another top of descent in order to start my descent and go to 6,000. Now, you can see that you have a angle here. It says 3.0 that goes down to 2.4. That means that in order to descend from 6,000 to 4,500, you need to get a 2.5 degree angle of descent. That's very useful because in order to save fuel, let's say we want to cross NOTAL at 1,2,000, not as 9,000 as we used to have it. So from NOTAL to Ortus, see that 3.0 degree angle of descent disappeared and changed to 2.1. I know that on a 3.0 angle of descent, I will have a rate of approximately 1,800 feet or so. It depends on the airspeed, pretty much. But 3.0, it's a very nice rate of descent. It will descend very calm. But what about if I want to increase that descent? Why I want to do that? Use less power, use less fuel, and optimize that descent. So if I want to increase that angle, I will say I want to cross NOTAL at 16,000. And guess what's going to happen? That angle will increase. See, it's now 3.5. So I don't want to do that, but I want to do maybe 3.0. So I'm going to say I want to cross NOTAL at 14,000, and it will go to 2.8. That's fine. That's a very nice angle. And that will put me in about 14,000 in order to reduce my airspeed from whatever I have on descent. I usually do 0.70 Mach. And on transition, on the airspeed, on their speed transition, I'll do 280 or all the way to 320 as well. So if I want to do all the descent to 320 and use no power, I would want to use not 3.0, but I want to use about 4.5, between 4 and 4.5. So we're going to put 4.0, and I want you to notice where is that top of descent? It's between Piedras Negras and Usbar. I'm gonna set up that 4.0 here, and I'm gonna execute it, and you're gonna see that top of descent, there you go, disappeared. See that? So it will disappear sometime. I don't know. The computers are slow. They are slow, and eventually that top of descent will appear somewhere here. That 4.0 will give you a steeper descent to use less power, optimize fuel, and then you can use another descent angle into lower altitudes. Pretty much that. This is how you manage your vertical navigation. Of course, remember you gotta have the vertical navigation selected in order to have that vertical path guidance here. So I'm gonna get rid of that 4.0 angle, and I'm gonna use that 3.0. I don't want to use that steep descent. So there is the top of descent right there. So I will keep these constraints. NOTAL at 14,000, Ortus at 6,000, and from NOTAL I'm gonna reduce that angle at 2.8. After that, I'm gonna descend to 4,500 feet, and that's a pretty much a pretty low angle that will keep the plane on a slow rate of descent. I will have to use some power, but that's fine. We have enough fuel to do that. That is how you program your vertical descent and how you play with that. It's you have a lot of options, and you gotta you need to have those numbers in your head. How steep you want to do your descent, how much fuel you want to burn, how much power you want to use. Very good. So right now we're gonna see how the vertical navigation works actually with the autopilot. So I'm gonna show you how to program that correctly and how the autopilot will follow the vertical path all the way to the descent. All right, so we are approaching to the top of descent, which is somewhere in between about 10 miles or so. We need to have the vertical navigation selected here. We need to have our constraints, which are already done. And we need to double check here the vertical altitude. You need to have that V. V, that means vertical navigation. If we have all these programmed, the airplane will correctly do a vertical navigation. So in a couple of seconds, it will appear here the first altitude we need to descend, and it will appear in blue, and that'll be 14,000. So right now George is going to request descent with Monterey, so we can have an initial descent altitude.
Ready?
Okay, we're ready for descent.
Monterrey, buenas tardes, noviembre 4, es Romeo Kilo, listo para menor.
436 Romeo Kilo, descienda para 13000 con 2996.
No, 3000, 2996, 6 Romeo Kilo.
All right, told you. So there's 14,000. That's the altitude that we program here for the vertical navigation. ADC already cleared us to 13,000. And look at that. That's the thrust. The thrust is the vertical path we need to follow. So in a couple of seconds, it will start to go down, and that means the path, we are intercepting the path. See that white word reading path? That's what the autopilot is going to do. So when the thrust comes here and goes to the middle, the autopilot will start to follow the vertical path. I'll show you how to do that. Don't forget to pull the power off whenever that happens. Otherwise, you will overspeed your aircraft. There it is. You will have an aural warning. There is a thrust, and look how the vertical path is going to be followed by the autopilot. So there it is, vertical path, altitude is on standby. I'm going to start pulling up the power off, and look how the vertical speed indicator is showing a descent. And remember that dot that we had before for the climb. We will have that one too for the descent. So we can have another reference if we want to use vertical speed. So for descent, the autopilot will actually fly a vertical path, not on the climb, but on the descent. So we are set up right now for the descent, power is set, and the aircraft is following that vertical path. So right now, altitude is in standby for 13,000 feet. Perhaps the aircraft, it means that it will stop at that altitude, but we have 14,000 and then 6,000. So that means that after hitting 14,000 there, it will continue to descend to 6,000. So in this specific case, the aircraft won't stop on that altitude. It will continue to 13,000 because it's already programmed. Very good. So today we learned how to program the vertical navigation for a climb, to program all the constraints for the descent, and we learned how the autopilot used that vertical navigation in the descent and in the approach procedure. So thanks a lot for watching. Remember, I'm Lalo Mijares. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Lalo Mijares, and like all my videos. There's a whole bunch of Beechjet series videos. I hope you like it, and I'll see you on the next episode.